This is a fascinating story out of India. And I know a lot of you commenters are like, you only talk about Christianity all the time and you never talk about what happens in other parts of the world. Well, let's talk about what happens in another part of the world. Because a few weeks ago, in late February, the Indian state of Assam, and I'm going to show you a map here so you know where I'm talking about. There's India, and right over there in red, that's the state of Assam. It's kind of away from the rest of the mainland country. That Indian state decided that they wanted to take action because a lot of Christian missionaries are coming into the country, usually Christian missionaries, and they promise things like miracle cures for all kinds of diseases. And you know how that works. They are taking advantage of these gullible people who desperately need medicine and hope, and they take advantage of them, and it's a horrible thing to do, and they just want to win converts. So these lawmakers in Assam wanted to put a stop to that. So they passed a bill. It's called the Assam Healing Prevention of Evil Practices Bill 2024. And I'm going to show you this bill because I want to read the preamble with you. Check this out. What's this bill all about? To bring social awakening in the society and to create healthy, science-based knowledge and safe social environment to protect human health against the evil and sinister practices thriving on ignorance and ill health of people, to eradicate the non-scientific healing practices with ulterior motives, for exploiting the innocent people and thereby destroying the fiber of the public health of the society for matters connected therewith or incidental thereto. I feel like that's missing a million commas and periods, but I will let that slide. But you get a sense of what they are saying here. They are saying, we want science and good health care, and we don't want these horrible people coming in and lying to our citizens and taking advantage of them and exploiting them by promising these cures that have no basis in reality. And that sounds very, very sensible. What this bill does is it bans anybody from performing magical healing to treat diseases or disorders because they say it gives people a false impression of how they can be cured. And it also promotes anybody from promoting those remedies as if they are legitimate. And I want to show you one other thing about this bill that is down here. It's only like 5 pages, but this is also, of course, at the moment, I want to share this with you. Oh, here we go. Look at the penalties that they are putting in for the people who do this. In the case of first offense, basically what they're saying is if you break this law and you promise people a miracle cure that never happens, we will give you a jail sentence between 1 to 3 years and fine you 50,000 rupees, which is like $600 in the United States for a first offense. Further offenses could result in a 5-year jail sentence and a fine of 1 lakh, which is about 100,000 rupees or 1,200 US dollars. So like they're taking this very seriously. And again, all this sounds kind of amazing because if the goal is to guide sick people toward actual evidence-based medicine, then great, because this is about consumer protection more than anything else. In India, especially, there are so many people who flock toward folk medicine that offers no actual help. And instead, what they should be doing is seeking out doctors who actually know what they need. So by turning to religion or other forms of superstition, not only are patients depriving themselves of remedies that could demonstrably help them, they're actually making it worse because the disease has more time to spread in some cases. Like even worse, they could be duped by people who just want to take their money and have no interest in the patient's well-being. So here's the problem with the bill. The bill is so broadly written that this ban on magical healing sounds like it could apply to regular run-of-the-mill Christianity, including everything from Christians just praying for people to get better to, putting their hands on your shoulders in an attempt to have God run through the crowd and to you. And these are things like you can imagine in a lot of churches, if somebody is sick, the entire church will say, let's all pray for Barbara. She's sick. Let us all think about her and pray for her. Does that count as magical healing? Because what they're asking for is magic. It's not going to happen. It has no direct effect on Barbara. What if they ask, what if you're in church and you say you're sick and they say, well, you know what we can do? Let us all put our arms around you and ask God to heal you. Does that count as magical healing? Because even if I'm giving them the benefit of the doubt, they are not trying to steal anything. They're not trying to dupe you. They're not saying don't go see a doctor. They genuinely believe their prayers are going to help. They genuinely believe that by putting their hand on your shoulder, God is going to work through them and cure you. That's not how science works. It's not going to help. But again, I find that to be misguided, but definitely not criminal. And yet this bill, a lot of Christians are worried this bill is coming after them. The bill doesn't mention any religion, much less any particular religion, but a lot of religious people are frightened that that is exactly what this is about. And it doesn't help that political leaders in the state of Assam have kind of been open about the fact, like, yeah, we totally want to shut down Christianity. Here is one dude. This is from Christianity Today, which reported on this. And this is from the chief minister of Assam. We want to curb evangelism in Assam. So in that direction, the banning of healing will be a very, very important milestone. Like, dude, you're not supposed to say that out loud. Evangelism should not be a crime. It's wrong. I don't agree with it, but it shouldn't be criminal. And this guy goes on. Healing is a very, very dicey subject, which is used to convert tribal people. We are going to pilot this bill because we believe religious status quo is very important. Whoever is Muslim, let them be Muslim. Whoever is Christian, let them be Christians. Whoever is Hindu, let them be Hindus, so there can be a proper balance in our state, which is their way of saying, we're all for religious freedom here. We're not trying to impinge on anyone's religious freedom. We just don't want the magical healing, which is often used for bad reasons to convert people who are basically desperate in some way or another. And again, it would be a lot easier to believe if they weren't so blunt about the fact that they kind of want to eradicate Christianity. Here's how you know this is kind of what they're doing. In that state of Assam, the leading political party is the BJP party, which is also Narendra Modi's party. He's the prime minister of India. He is very much a Hindu nationalist. In the same way we talk about Christian nationalists in the United States, Narendra Modi is a Hindu nationalist in India. And his party very much wants to promote Hinduism at the expense of Islam and any other religion, including Christianity. And so when his party is running the show in the state of Assam, it's not far-fetched to think, yeah, they kind of want to punish Christians for being Christian. And like, I am all for shutting down faith healing that is hurting people. But again, let's not forget, a lot of Christians genuinely pray for healing because they believe God will act on their request. It's not a con. They just happen to be misguided. But that's not a crime. So again, I kind of go back to these rhetorical, hypothetical questions, I should say. What happens if somebody is sick and their church collectively prays for them to get better? That is not anti-medicine. That is not anti-doctor. It does suggest God plays a role in healing. Should they be punished for it? Would it violate the law? I mean, it kind of sounds like it would violate this law. And in fact, this is also from the Christianity Today article. According to a Christian organization, they clarified, that Christian prayers for healing are acts of compassion, not conversion. According to the Christian Forum spokesman, leaders are concerned that any prayer that may follow healing could be perceived as a motive to convert the other person to Christianity, in which case everybody will go to jail. Like, they are worried about this, and I think they have good reason to be freaked out. By the way, it doesn't help that this bill also gives police officers the power to enter any church where there is suspicion of healing taking place and seize, that's their word, seize any evidence of noncompliance. Like, it's a backdoor approach to literal religious persecution. And I think I also have to mention that there are many sick people who don't always trust Western medicine or don't have the ability, financial or otherwise, to get the help they need. I mean, there are a lot of good reasons people may not trust Western medicine. If you're not familiar with the Tuskegee Institute, go look it up with what they did at Tuskegee. But like, there are reasons in people living in India, in that part of India, may not want to trust Western medicine. They also may not have the ability to see a doctor. In which case, if someone comes and says, I can heal you, let me help you, and you feel like you have no other choice, what are you going to do? Because sometimes, even if you can't get scientifically cured, having some spiritual hope that something's going to get better still makes you feel better. And I don't want to deprive people of that, as harmful as that could be, because it's not like they have a choice. So when they turn to these, this mystical cures out of hope or desperation, or in addition to actual medicine, I don't think it should be criminalized. And one Indian media outlet actually put it this way. They said, when it comes to these healing camps, missionaries often organize healing camps in remote areas, often far removed from the reach of adequate healthcare facilities. The promise of miracle cures for various ailments becomes a powerful lure for the impoverished villagers. And again, we can be mad at missionaries for setting up shop in a place where the most desperate people are living. But at the same time, if those desperate people feel like they have no other choice, so they go see these people, I don't know that should be banned when you're not giving these people access to the healthcare they actually need. You know what I mean? I don't want to say I am not on the side of these faith healers. I think they are taking advantage of people, but also a lot of them don't believe they're not in this for the con. They believe they're helping people, and I think when you start punishing that, now we're getting into the dodgy area of thought crime. And that's a scary, slippery slope right there. Like, let's criticize their ineffectiveness. But for people who don't feel like they have any choice, this could feel like a lifeline. If they're promising cures in exchange for conversion, let's punish that. But if they're praying because they think it'll help, if they're offering these miracle cures because they think it'll help, and they're not necessarily taking people's money in exchange for it, maybe we could say that's not scientific, but I find it hard to jump to the conclusion that what they're doing ought to be criminalized, and that those people deserve to go to jail. It seems like an overreach. Like, let's punish hucksters who use the language of faith to trick people into trusting them only to take their money and never fix the problems. But to punish well-meaning religious people who turn to God in the absence of alternatives or in addition to alternatives, that's messed up. Like Catholic hospitals, for example, they sometimes mix science and religion. And I would argue they are harmful in a lot of ways. But I don't think what they're doing is criminal. Plenty of missionaries think faith healing is not a con. They genuinely believe it helps. And to punish their ignorance seems like a slippery slope. And I think it's also worth pointing out the BJP party, the Hindu Nationalist Party, they have suppressed religious freedom for non-Hindus across India. This is from a Catholic website called Crux. More Christians charged, harassed in India under anti-conversion laws. Like, that's not propaganda. That is what they are doing in India. This is another article from an Indian news outlet. Missionary schools in Assam on edge. Missionary schools on edge after threat to remove Christian symbols, chapels. Like, they went into Christian schools in the state of Assam and removed Christian symbols. That seems like an overreach. By the way, Christians in Assam make up about 4% of the population. It's a religious minority in that state. If there's any silver lining to all of this, it's that the bill explicitly defines magic healing and evil practices as acts committed by those with a sinister motive to exploit common people. And that seems like bad, but they don't define who gets to say, what's sinister? What's a sinister motive? How do we know something jumps to the level of exploitation? Because if you're not defining those, anyone could say anyone is sinister. So the lack of nuance does not help. By the way, there is a neighboring state in India. There's a neighboring state of that has a lot more Christians, and they pointed out, a Christian leader in that neighboring state pointed out that India's constitution specifically calls for religious freedom. This is in India's constitution: freedom of conscience and free profession, practice, and propagation of religion. Religious freedom is built into their constitution. So if that's what's going on, they're arguing that this neighboring state, this bill is actually violating the national law. It's not hard then to see this bill as a way to punish Christians under the guise of protecting citizens. I find it disturbing. As much as I don't like religious hucksters, I feel like this bill goes too far. And maybe those of you in the comments have different thoughts. I'd love to hear them too. But that's all I wanted to say about that one. I'll pause there for a bit. While Den is pulling up some other stuff, I'm just looking if there's anything else I really want to discuss. The answer may be no. I think I'm done for the night in terms of stories. But if they demand people be in their religion to get this or demand conversion, then it could be. Yeah, I agree. At that point, they are getting into this coerciveness behavior. But again, this goes back to, I could see them trying to criminalize that. But what happens when they're just saying, we're Christians and we're going to put our arms on you and cure you, and anyone's welcome to come? You don't have to convert, but you're welcome to. Like, at what point does it cross the line into doing something illegal? And this bill does not define it. It's very up for grabs. And that makes it very easy to go after religious minorities, because you could just accuse them of doing that, even if it's not the intent. So again, like, I'm not trying to defend the Christian missionaries. I have a lot of problems with them. I definitely don't feel like I can support this bill, though, even though it's passed. This does sound like a slippery slope toward religious prosecution, persecution. And with slippery slopes, it makes you wonder what can be next. Yep, that is my fear. Exactly. You put it in very good words right there. They want to stomp out religious opposition. And we've seen that happening in India under Modi and his party. What they are doing to Muslims in that country is horrific. And it would not be far-fetched to think they would be doing the same thing to Christians, even though that's not a sizable part of the population. How does India feel about atheists? I wish I could answer that. I feel like, despite being brown, I don't feel like I have the knowledge, like the firsthand knowledge of it. They're probably decently received, as opposed to like a place like Bangladesh where they have been persecuted. I don't really hear stories about India being about atheists being persecuted or punished in India for thought crimes. But again, I feel like Christians or Muslims have a lot more to fear in India than people who just don't believe in God.